Really happy to welcome back into the show the executive of Howard County, Dr. Calvin Ball. Calvin, we got you on the line?
Yep.
How we doing today, my man?
I'm doing great.
Awesome stuff. And I know that this is a very big time of the year, for politicians everywhere across Maryland, particularly coming out of the General Assembly. And also it's budget season right now. So I was curious if we could kind of just kick off the conversation with you giving us a brief overview of what the budget's going to look like for Howard County in 2023 and beyond.
Well, I am just so very excited to be back on, and I hope everyone is making a terrific Tuesday. For my budget this year, of course, top of mind is our school system. It is going to be a budget that for the second year ever in Howard County history, it tops over $1 billion. That includes $47 million new dollars in recurring county funding and more than $71.6 million over the state minimum standard known as maintenance of effort.
And I always get so intrigued when budget season comes around, right? Because it's got to be an interesting headache to have, to put it bluntly. Because there's got to just be so many things that you want to invest in and you want to throw funding to, and you kind of got to narrow it down to just these priorities, right? And kind of figure out how those priorities shake out and where you want to allocate the limited amount of funds that you have. So can you kind of just peel the curtain back as much as you can of being somebody in a leadership position who has to work with other folks on your team and in your office about figuring out a budget for a place like Howard County? I mean, is it exciting? Is it stressful? What's that experience like?
Oh, it is an exciting, wonderful opportunity. Of course, we invest in education and ensure that our school system is taken care of, our community college, our library system, but also things like public safety to ensure that we have safe and engaged communities, health and wellness so that we have thriving and healthy residents, a strong and prosperous business community, a clean and sustainable environment, infrastructure, and all of the things that help create the best quality of life, not merely overall, but for all.
And looking at some of those things, obviously, you guys are going to have a historic operating budget for your schools. What are you hoping in terms of some of the specifics of what this budget is going to bring to Howard County schools?
Well, I'm really hopeful that, under this proposal, our hardworking educators are going to receive salary increases. And so it is going to be about $46.4 million to actually fully fund their salary increases. It's going to help us open up a new school, Guilford Park High School. This state-of-the-art facility will be the first high school to open in Howard County since 2005. We're going to have investments, of course, in our community college, and so making sure that we have growth there. Our library system, when it comes to the new and exciting Lakefront Library, and so many other educational enhancements, and it's so befitting that we're talking about the library. We have the Lakefront Library, which will be 100,000 square feet for people of all ages and abilities to come and learn and grow and thrive. And we're talking about it here during National Library Week.
And what does National Library Week mean for folks in Howard County, and specifically you as the executive?
Well, I think it's a perfect time to celebrate all that our public libraries have to offer. Libraries are hubs of education, the arts, civic life, but also so that when people want to invest in themselves, become entrepreneurs, go somewhere that they've never been before, a new different time. And here in Howard County, we have 6 library branches across our county, and being able to invest in a new, innovative, bold vision for a library at the lakefront, Columbia's lakefront, is something that is going to transform how people look at libraries, frankly, throughout the rest of the world.
And sticking here with the youth, but a bit of a pivot, you guys also have something brewing called the Youth Engagement Programming, or also known as YEP as an acronym. Can you tell people what that's all about and what you're hoping the results will be?
Well, I think we're seeing, not just around the region, but frankly around the nation, a lot of our young people are struggling. They're struggling with mental and physical health challenges, behavioral health. We're seeing some of that being manifested in crimes. We're seeing some areas like malls have restrictions on where young people can go. And so I wanted to make sure that our young people are seen, are heard, and are supported. And so our youth engagement programming grants, or like you said, our YEP grants, are investments in our young people. I allocated an investment of about $500,000, and I'm partnering with nonprofits around Howard County to have more youth programming. How are we going to ensure that our young people have healthy places to go, safe ways to learn how to productively interact with each other and with the world around them? And so these nonprofits with county government are going to find those ways, particularly when it comes to evenings and weekends when a lot of our young people are out of school and they're looking for something to do. We can find something that's productive that they want to do that helps them become their very best selves.
And looking at your personal career right now, I know that this is kind of old news for you, I'm sure, but this is the first time we've had you on the show, and I'd be remiss if I didn't get the chance to ask you about it, that you were elected back in January as the president for the Maryland Association of Counties. So for anybody who's never heard of this role before, could you just give us a brief overview of what it entails and why you decided that you thought you'd be a good fit for the job and what you're hoping to bring to it?
Well, I am just so excited to be president of the Maryland Association of Counties, otherwise known as MACO. We are the body that advocates for all of the local elected officials' priorities for our local jurisdictions throughout the state and the nation. For example, we had a very productive 90-day session advocating for priorities in Annapolis before the General Assembly that focused on transparency, local decision-making, public safety, and our schools. And we now have legislation that gives counties the option to access necessary provisions implementing body-worn camera programs. And we can establish more strengthening of firefighter and EMS services within our various counties. We worked on supporting legislation to eliminate antiquated and inefficient laws. And of the 750-some bills that we analyzed, we actually delivered testimony in Annapolis before the General Assembly on 330 pieces of legislation.
Wow, and I mean, you guys just stay so busy up there in Howard County. I wonder how you have time to do something like sleep or eat. But I mean, it seems like you're on top of it, so I'll just leave that to you and your team over there. But looking at Howard County as a whole, I find it to be such an interesting place, you know, because I feel like it really encompasses a lot of different things about the culture and the history of Maryland, in this microcosm of one county there. And recently Niche, which is a journalistic outlet that talks about a whole lot of stuff, particularly, local places, said that Howard County was the #1 best county to live in the state of Maryland. And I think that, you know, these kinds of lists and things like that are fun, and really it all comes down to a subjective viewpoint. But what are some of the objective things that you think you could argue make Howard County the best place to live in Maryland?
Well, I am just so pleased that we received an overall A-plus rating, and that included an A-plus for our public schools, an A for housing, an A- for nightlife, an A-plus for being family-friendly, an A for diversity, and A for jobs. And so this helps ensure and tell the rest of the county, the state, the nation, the world that we are creating the best quality of life for all. We do have a flourishing hub of arts and culture, jobs and vitality, and we are working to increase things like energy independence. You know, we talked a little bit about education before, but one of the things that I'm also excited about is having $13 million of state funding that we just put toward our applications and research laboratory. And that is going to help create more science, technology, engineering, and math programs for our high school students, and tackling a wait list so that they can help be part of the careers of tomorrow. A lot of times people look toward having those higher ed degrees. And of course, I'm a second generation Morgan man. I got my doctorate in education from Morgan State University. However, we have so many other opportunities also in career and technical education, and being able to invest in the entire person, the entire quality of life, and looking at this holistic approach helped us become the best in the state. And we're very honored and humbled and proud.
And one thing I really want to ask you about before we let you get out of here, again, my name is Gabe Ortiz, speaking right now with Dr. Calvin Ball, Howard County executive, talking about everything going on in Howard County, is this disparity study that you and your team have been working on. Can you let us know what the disparity study is, what the motivation behind conducting it was, and what you found out?
Well, I'll tell you what, Howard County is a place where businesses come to launch and expand and grow. Our local entrepreneurs bring bold, fresh ideas and innovations, and we continue to work with our businesses to lead the way through contracting and procurement. And I am just so glad that today I announced that we're taking another bold step to invest about $400,000 for the county's very first disparity study. And the disparity study is an important tool that will help identify any gaps in our current contracting practices and business assistance programs to encourage more participation of minority, women-owned, and disabled-owned businesses. And we look at these practices and we ensure that they have more opportunity. When I took office about 5 years ago, there were only 100 firms certified in our local business initiative with our Office of Procurement and Contract Administration. Today, we have more than 365 firms. And by conducting a disparity study, we will renew our commitment to investing in a diverse and local business climate here where everyone can be successful, and everyone who invests in themselves and wants to invest in their company can be successful, because we know a thriving business isn't just about that business. It's about the person. It's about the community. It's about the family. It's about helping dreams come true.
And on that topic right there, something that kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of what you're talking about here is housing, right? I mean, when it comes to disparity, that's one of the first things I think that really shows in a tangible way where disparity exists within any community, whether it's Howard County, whether it's in California, wherever it may be. So I'm curious about the millions of dollars. I think it's 16 million. Correct me if I'm wrong, but 16.5 million, right, that you're investing into a housing initiative. Can you tell us about the housing initiative and what your hopes are for this funding?
Well, we can't focus on anything if we don't have a roof over our heads. And so that's why I was so pleased to invest $16.5 million in my budget this year for those transformative housing initiatives. And that means that includes $10 million for our Housing Trust Fund. Just last year, I worked with our county council and our state delegation to create Howard County's very first Housing Trust Fund. And I put $5 million. With this 10, we now have $15 million to work on home ownership and ensuring that people have a place to stay. So that's $10 million. Also, we have $6.5 million just focused on home ownership and housing rehabilitation initiatives. So that means when we have new home ownership opportunities for limited income home buyers, when we have people who need to care for their homes when they're falling apart or having difficulty, then we can help them with that investment. And that not only helps them, but it helps housing values, it helps their entire community. And one of the biggest barriers we know to home ownership is settlement down payment and housing assistance. So being able to have an investment into housing assistance and settlement down payment has not only helped over the last 5 years about 400 families get access to home ownership here in Howard County, but it is critical to helping build that American dream. And then finally, about $1 million of that is going to bolster rental assistance program. Ever since the pandemic, we've seen even more challenges in people being able to stay housed as renters. And so we have, throughout the pandemic, distributed more than $25 million to process almost 4,000 applications for people who are past their rent or utility payments, among other needs. And so being able to put $16.5 million for the housing initiatives will help people not only stay housed, but continue to grow. Because we know that home ownership leads to wealth creation and wealth building for current and future generations.
That's just awesome stuff, my man. I always love having you on the show whenever we can get you here. I think you're just doing a wonderful job in Howard County, and I can't wait to hear about, what the future holds for Howard County and Dr. Calvin Ball.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm so blessed to have a fantastic team, and I hope you make a terrific Tuesday.
Awesome. Sounds good. Really, really great stuff coming from Dr. Calvin Ball.